I've only done this 100 times. Actually, 100 times. I think this is video like 102. You think I'd know what my outro is by now. The day I am filming this, it is October 1st. Officially spooky season. Officially. So of course we have to pull out the Sugar Skull Calavera earrings and the Calavera Frida Kahlo t-shirt. I gotta shout out this shirt. I've owned it for like 5 or 6 years, but I just checked, this brand still exists. It's called Los Muertos Clothing. They are a small company based in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, which is like an hour and a half outside of Mexico City. The website's entirely in Spanish, but they do ship to the US, I assume, because, you know, Estados Unidos, United States, is one of the options from the country shipping menu. So, you know, and it's a small Mexican-owned business. Like, when I bought this, I go into the little boutique, and it's like, yeah, there's the screen printing machine where they were doing these designs by hand. Like, love it. Great. Okay, now we can actually raise the camera to a more appropriate height. Also, it being October 1st, that means we're officially in the last quarter of the year, and it is time for the end of the year book tag. I have forgotten to look up who the creator of this tag is. If I find their name, I will have it shown on the screen here for a moment, and I will have a link to their video in the description box below. I will also have a link to the version of this tag that I did last year. We've got 6 questions that all have to do with potential reading plans between now and the end of the calendar year. So, question 1, are there any books you started this year and need to finish? I mean, aside from the books that I'm currently in the middle of. I don't know about finish by the end of the year, but a book that I did DNF that I do want to revisit at some point. This is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. There was nothing wrong with this book. When I picked this up, I borrowed it from my library and I started reading it, and I just realized I don't want to read anything contemporary right now. I want complete fantasy. I want complete escapism, and even though this is a romance that's gotten really good reviews, it was just like, I'm not in the best headspace to read it. I need to come back to this another time. And it is definitely still something I would like to do. I don't know if I'll do it before the end of the year, but that is one book that I technically started and have not finished that I do want to. Question number 2, do you have any autumnal books to transition to the end of the year? I don't have any books specifically, but I definitely do start to be more in the mood for spooky, atmospheric stories. Either like my most recently uploaded video, maybe the one before, depending on when this one exactly goes up. But I did a video that is 5 short spooky reads, reading 5 spooky, atmospheric books that are all under 300 pages. So I will link that video in the description box as well. Let's see, the books I talk about in that one are, I have them in my pile of September reads that I need to film that video after this one. But if you're curious, the books I talk about, The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers by Jen Campbell, illustrated by Adam D'Souza, Monstrous Volume 1 by Marjorie Liu, illustrated by Sana Takeda, The Marrow Thieves by Cherie Dimaline, The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval, and Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. So if you're interested in hearing more in-depth thoughts of any of those books, check out that video. It was a fun time. All of them were at least a 4-star read. Question number 3. Is there a new release that you are still waiting for? At the time of filming this, yes, I'm still excited for The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. This is the sequel or companion novel to The City We Became, which I did read, I don't remember when. I listened to the audiobook. It was my first N.K. Jemisin, and I did really, really enjoy it. I have not really looked at the premise of The World We Make and how it is similar or different. I'm just like, N.K. Jemisin, and in a world that I know I already enjoy, great, sign me up. I don't need any more than that. I had a couple other books that initially were slated to be published like either in like October or November, but their publication date has actually been pushed to next year. Good things come to those who wait, right? Yeah? Okay. Okay, question number 4. 3 books you want to read by the end of the year. So definitely the last 3 books on my Amnesia Reads TBR. This is Cart and Quitter by Diana Wynne Jones, Georges by Alexander Dumas, and Global Human Smuggling. I guess this is a collection of like articles and research stuff. These are all books from my Amnesia Reads TBR, which is a project where I pick books from my shelves that I know I've read them and I don't remember anything about them. It's either been so long or, I read them at a time where like my memory wasn't doing too hot, or I do kind of remember things about them, but it's been so long. Like, for example, Cart and Quitter. I know I really enjoyed the series, but it's been so long. I don't really remember what was happening in each book, and also I'd like to read this from an adult perspective. Probably the last time I read this I was like 13 or something. So those are the kind of books that make it onto that project. I know we said only 3 books, but that's from a specific TBR. I'm going to throw in another one. The Master Butcher Singing Club by Louise Erdrich. I believe this is the oldest book on my physical TBR that I acquired, I believe, in January of last year. I also have kind of been slacking on reading Indigenous authors this year. That was not intentional. Like, I've been doing pretty good at reading authors that are from some underrepresented demographic, but I think like the lowest number is Indigenous authors. So since I did that count, I have read a few, including The Marrow Thieves by Cherie Dimaline that I mentioned a little bit ago. But yeah, I've never read any Louise Erdrich, and this is an author that is absolutely on my radar. So I would love to get to this by the end of the year, or at least try it. I mean, she's written so many things that if there's something about this that's just not speaking to me, I'm sure there is another book of hers that I'm like, let me give her a couple of tries. It's just this, I believe, is like a historical fiction, which is not a genre that I never read, but it takes a little bit. It just takes a little bit of encouragement for me to get into it. So hopefully by saying that I want to read it by the end of the world, putting that intention out there, can't hurt, right? Right, great. Question number 5. Are there any books that could shock you and be your favorite book of the year? Possibly. I feel like looking at the books on my shelves, this is... who knows what I'm going to borrow from the library between now and the end of the year. We got 3 whole months left. Like, could be whatever. But just looking at what is on my shelves, and I feel motivated to read sooner rather than later. The strongest contenders, I don't know, maybe... I know that I'm going to read this soon. This is Lake Lore by Anna Marie McLemore. I've read, I read Miss Meteor, which is by Anna Marie McLemore and Taylor K. Mejia, that I really, really enjoyed. So this is a strong contender. I'm currently reading Reclaim the Stars, 17 Stories Across Space and Time. It's speculative fiction from Latinx authors, and Anna Marie McLemore has a short story in there. All of the stories in that collection have so far been fucking amazing. I know that I like her writing. This premise is interesting. This is a contender. And then if I get to it, possibly, I don't know, Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I don't know about a favorite of the year. But I feel like maybe Robin Hobb could be like a new favorite author, a new thing that I read, and I'm like, must read all of it. Must read all of it. Most exciting author I'm excited to read more from. Worth mentioning. Also, a weird one. The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley. You know, if I manage to read this Bible of a book before the end of the year. I've read like the opening paragraph of it and it intrigues me. I do think I'm really gonna like it. It's just gonna kind of like with delving into a historical fiction when I'm not really in the mood for it. It's gonna take a little bit of self-encouragement to delve into this like classical fantasy story and to really give it the like patience and attention that it needs, which are two things I'm not good at: patience and attention. And I have other things on my shelves that probably could be a contender, but I don't think, but they're not the highest contenders to read between now and the end of the year. Question number 6. Have you started making reading plans for next year? Not specifically. I've kind of started thinking about like, how is my reading gone? What kind of things do I want to track? Mostly like, not so much the reading itself, but like my reading tracking. What kind of things have I enjoyed doing this year and do I want to do next year? So I've kind of started thinking about like what has worked for me this year in terms of pulling from what I already have. And you know, what kind of things do I want to change for next year. Another thing I'm considering is, I know I don't want to do monthly TBRs just because from moment to moment, I change what I want to read. Something comes available from the library and I drop whatever I'm reading to focus on that. But I think I might do like quarterly TBRs where I pick 6 books, 8 books that I want to read within a quarter. I want to think about how I can participate in more like readathons, seasonal readathons. I've started by just kind of like tracking the ones that happen like at the same time every year so I can kind of think about them ahead of time. Like the thing that's stopping me is just like not feeling like I have the energy to like commit to it ahead of time. I mean, I do kind of like, you know, whatever cultural heritage month it is, or you know, if it's like autism awareness or disability awareness or something, like I do tend to like read stuff in that vein already, but I don't talk about it until after the fact. So kind of thinking ahead to how I can kind of prepare myself and leave some kind of energy, motivation, budget to visibly participate in those things. I don't have actual action items that will help me accomplish that yet, but that is a thing I'm thinking of. It might just be like posting more on Instagram, because that's a lot less work than making a whole ass video. If you have started making reading plans for the end of the year, let me know. Let me know what, especially if you are like revising a goal that you tried to do this year, and what have like you learned that has helped you do that thing better. If you're not in the habit of making specific goals, if you just haven't started thinking about it yet and you just want to let me know you're here, can you leave me a dog emoji? I hope you have a good rest of your day. I encourage you to go out into the world and be curious. I will leave my social media and other places where you can find me in the description box below. And I will catch you folks in my next video. Bye!